chocolate factory.
Do we do it because we want to, or because we have to? The line is blurred, and yet it's all coming to an end, internally and out. World famine, food shortages, mutually assured destruction, the absolute enslavement of humanity, body and mind, it's all a lie, backed by scraps of paper with a exponentially declining value. Someone is laughing. They're all laughing. They laugh as we struggle to find our place in the fast approaching new world. They laugh at our naive need to play a role in their liar's theater. But when that play ends, where does that leave us? Useless, ignorant thespians. Lost, broken, aimless, and pathetically helpless from our reliance on the conveniences provided by the prosperous times of yesterday. Who's gonna deliver the food to your door? No one. You will crumble, you will perish, and we will all believe their lie that it is not the fault of our incompetent rulers, our overlords, but that of our fellow man, our starving, destitute neighbor, our newfound enemy who suffers alongside us. And we will go along with it all, and they will laugh. It's all coming to an end. And there's no clear answer to the final important question. What do we do now? If anything, I can just pass it off as an art piece or a prop for my videos. However, funny enough, if I actually was to operate this as a lemonade stand, then I would need a permit. You gotta love the consistency of our glorious lawmakers. Guillotine! Neighbors. What will my neighbors think? What about the HOA? Fuck the HOA. It's my goddamn property and I'll build whatever the fuck I want on the land that I paid for. If some nosy neighbor wants to learn more about what I'm building, let him come knock on my tent and I'll show him how it works. So, what's the difference between legal, lethal home defense and booby traps? A few things. The main thing is that the law values human life over property, or at least on paper they claim to. I think we all know that that's actually bullshit. But for us little people, us average citizens, it isn't justified to injure or kill someone because they're trying to steal your property. Specifically, if you are not in the home. Because in that circumstance, there is no threat to your life, just your property. Okay.
Your only priority.
Faster, faster, more. The days when creators had a direct connection with their audience are long dead. Now, there's a middleman, the algorithm. Just a filter which only allows through that which will maximize the amount of time that people spend on its platform, watching videos with paid advertisements.
Spamming your self-important artistry. There are millions more out there, just like you, waiting to take your place, willing to play by the rules and be rewarded. Stick to a mold, Rusty. The formula works.
That's where they want you, molded into simple-shaped blocks that can be put into simple-shaped holes. Fuck your complexity. Fuck your creativity. Fuck anything you do that can't be systematically and consistently identified, categorized, and rated with a high likelihood of being safe for consumption by the broadest possible audience. Want to put a little variety in your act? Eat shit. Stick to the formula. Stay in the box. You blank canvas. You empty vessel.
Oh, how boring. Bitch. Hasn't this segment dragged on enough? You're gonna lose your attention, Rusty. Here, I'll do everyone a favor.
No! Enough! It's not natural. View duration, watch time, click rate, impressions. It's corrupting our mind, destroying our ability to focus on anything for longer than 3 seconds without having to have keys jingled in front of our faces. Oh, god damn it!
What could possibly make you think you know more than the algorithm about what works? You think the viewers know what they want? We tell them what they want. We dig the trenches through which everyone walks, and it works just how we want.
Because there's an unspoken understanding that everyone is beginning to feel in their core. A growing awakening to the reality of our circumstance. The facade of a functioning civilization is dissolving, and we've all fallen into enslavement under fraudulent authorities who deceive us with illusions of autonomy, safety, human rights, and the power to make change. Who continuously pulls the rug from beneath our feet the second we feel secure enough to stand up. As everything falls apart all around us all at once, the authenticity of our leaders is exposed. Those who claim to serve our best interest, but who would slaughter us and sell us to the highest paying butcher at the first opportunity. Every day the divide grows wider. That was more of a smush than a chop. And every day we feel ever more powerless to do anything about anything at all. And we thirst for something.
some sense of control over our own lives and the ability to hold accountable those who threaten the value and quality of our lives. The thirst in our throat to crawl out of the trenches dug for us, which keep us in our place of obedience. Our eager, parched mouths thirst.
Causes some people to roll their eyes. To many, even questioning long-established practices seems regressive. We'd like to assume our current society functions because of a well-thought-out system put into place in the past by honest, capable people for honest, practical purposes. That things have always been the way they are, and who really has the time or mental bandwidth to question it? In order to progress forward, we must stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before us and trust that those giants were competent, had foresight, and were impervious to corruption. That the systems in place which dictate our day-to-day lives were installed for the beneficial longevity of humanity and not for the immediate prosperity of those who instituted them. The world we live in is the only one we know, and we're expected to accept what we're told about how it operates. But we don't really know how the world functions. All we know is what the operators allow us to see. Why do you think there's such a strong push to ridicule and minimize terms like conspiracy theory? A belief that some secret but influential organization is responsible for an event or phenomenon. Sure, there's always the potential that false conspiracy theories could influence enough masses to think irrationally and take potentially damaging actions against themselves and others. It's happened before. But at its core, who is most at risk from the rejection of the standard explanation for events and the investigation into whether it can be attributed to covert groups or organizations? Who benefits the most from the demonization of the simple act of individuals questioning the reality of the world around them, questioning the motives of power structures, questioning the narrative fed to us which curates our opinions and directs our beliefs? The more we question, the more we expose the hidden underlying deceit. This line of thinking might be cliché. Everyone's heard it before. Shady, faceless, powerful people doing bad things behind closed doors for their personal advancement. Poison in the water, medicating the people against their knowledge or will, insider trading, mind control, tapped phones, buying up all the housing to force us to rent forever, buying up all the farmland to control our food, owning nothing, eating bugs, seed oils, microplastics, social credit scores, living in a pod, inside jobs, chemical spills, political money laundering through proxy wars, child prostitution rings involving the most powerful and influential people in the world. Just because it's cliché doesn't inherently make it false. The easiest way to get someone to dismiss an idea is to desensitize them to it, to diminish the value of the idea and lessen its importance low enough that to even consider it would be a waste of time. A lie told enough times will become accepted as truth, and if that truth is repeated enough, it becomes an indisputable article of belief. What? You really think that happened? Didn't the fact checkers already debunk that? And yet everything we take for granted as stable societal foundations is to some degree a lie. A house of cards built over the years, one by one on the flawed knowledge of the times, able to remain standing just long enough that people stop questioning its validity and sustainability. As long as it seems fine for the time being, we all move on, allowing more and more erroneous cards to stack up, creating a weakened infrastructure that only appears solid if you don't look too closely at any one card, like a Ponzi scheme that requires us to continue believing that it's working, or else the illusion fails and it all falls apart. Everywhere you look, everything. The ingredients in the food you eat, the manufacturing of your clothes, if not the harvesting of the materials needed to manufacture your clothes, our phones and electric vehicles, the batteries of which are created through child slave labor, recycling, health insurance, our currency, fractional reserve banking, pesticides, data control, planned obsolescence. How are you feeling? Bad? Here, take some SSRIs. How's your attention span? Dwindling? Here, take some amphetamine. Don't trust your government? Don't worry, you only have two choices and we own them both. Hey, don't worry about the millions of children who go missing each year. Don't worry about who visited Epstein's Island. Don't worry about Hollywood. Netflix just released season 24 of your favorite show. Spend hours on TikTok. Stay inside. Stay weak. Stay distracted. Everything is working just fine and there's nothing to worry about. So definitely don't start theorizing about anything. We've only got two eyes and can't look in all directions all the time. And that's how these corrupted systems get implemented. In the darkness, behind the scenes,
oftentimes by psychopaths, completely disconnected from the sensibilities of the people whose lives they dictate. The decisions are made by those who have no concern for the consequences. It was never meant to last, only long enough to get the payout, and inevitably, it all starts to collapse piece by piece. We can prolong the decline, but we first have to become aware of the true reality of our circumstance. As long as we're provided with cheap comforts and convenient distractions, then nobody will be compelled to take any sort of action. But all that will change when the final catalyst arrives, when it becomes too expensive to live, the food becomes scarce, people start to go hungry, and when the water finally dries up.
Through political lobbying, deceitful water rights claims, and poorly regulated pumping on expired permits, Nestle has our water by the balls, draining the aquifers, pumping tens of millions of gallons a year from national forests, rivers, and wells, drying up the streams, and exacerbating the devastating effects in areas suffering from severe drought, all while paying just a few $100s annually in permit fees, and profiting in the billions. The availability of our water, our precious bodily fluids, is controlled and exploited by select few corporate entities. They drain the water from underneath your feet and sell it right back to you. So when I see that water stacking up in front of gas stations, getting beat down on by the sun, I mean, whose water is that? Don't let them lie to you. No one actually watches the cameras. And the poor people at Nestle are just gonna have to write this one off as a loss.
Somehow, we've become completely reliant on corporations and government agencies to provide all our human needs. It's poisoned our ability to live. We're constantly flooded with news about our inevitable demise by intentional design. War, famine, pandemic, financial collapse, instilling us with a permanent sense of helplessness, which is then molded into panic and fear, creating the perception that our lives depend on our willingness to embrace the rulers as our protectors from the certain doom ahead. They use our panic to push for more control.
Russia's new nuclear threat, a weapon the country says could hit any place in the world.
Report on UFO sightings today saying an additional 300
from the East Palestine train derailment come to light. One of the concerns of local residents has been water contamination after dead fish were found.
The food chief estimates that the war in Ukraine has pushed 70 million people around the world closer to starvation.
As long as we are kept content with the bone that they throw us, as long as we enjoy the comfort of our leashes, then they will forever remain our masters. Bread and circus, the enemy is right outside the gates. It's an algorithm that has worked time and time again for millennia. As long as we're kept in a constant state of panic, then we will continue to go along with anything claiming to offer safety.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
Panic. It's always been that way. Those who preach the invitation of destruction into the world see its arrival before all else. What you bring into light shines brightest in your own eyes. Something is coming. I don't know what, but something is coming, and coming fast. The smell of blood is in the water, and everyone wants a taste, but for whose blood lacks any consensus? The rich, the politicians, the landlords, the left, the right, those who abuse children, perhaps all of them. Perhaps ourselves. What purpose my lemonade stand has to do with any of it is beyond my understanding. The shocking number, hundreds of requests from people asking to be the first to test my lemon chopper on, and hundreds more anticipating that I myself will be first. Half tongue-in-cheek, but still indicative of the present zeitgeist of our collective surrender. We lose. They, whoever they are, wins. And now we opt out of our own existence. The hundreds of warnings that this project will have me put on a watch list of certain three-letter agencies. As though we haven't all been on that watch list for decades. Everything we say, recorded. Everything we type is logged. Every thought and opinion we release into the digital world is fed into a machine to calculate our value to, or our potential threat to, the existence of that very machine. Land poisoned by a chemical spill, or in some diseased marshland full of dying trees. But even if you truly think you finally secured that perfect location,
think again, because the government can and will take it all away from you under the guise of it being repurposed for the good of the public. They do this through what is known as eminent domain, the wet ground. So how could a land seizure possibly go wrong? Well, don't ask the American Indians sent on the Trail of Tears. Now I know what you're thinking. Surely our government wouldn't rob its own citizens of their livelihoods in exchange for money given to them by private industries who want to acquire the property to expand their own profits. No, you're not thinking that, because you know better. And that's exactly what happens time and time again. It happens all the time. And the problem is clear. While there may be legitimate and beneficial reasons for the government to utilize eminent domain, that power that only the government has is being exploited by private industry in order to acquire ordinary people's private property and turn it into private profits, all with the claim that it's for the public good. Oh, fuck! I almost forgot to mention. When a private industry successfully negotiates with the government to seize your property, it's not the private industry that pays out the just compensation. Oh no, it's government funding, aka your tax dollars. You are the one who pays for the seized land that is given to the big corporations. Why the fuck are we still paying taxes? Well, let's be honest here. The United States doesn't have the best track record historically when it comes to land seizures. The concept of owning private property at all is, in itself, a often controversial and debated topic. History is a series of never-ending forced land seizures, thefts, and genocides. And we can entertain the belief that individuals have a secured right to own land. But that ends when it becomes more profitable for those with the power to do so to take it away and repurpose it for a better use of their choosing. It sucks, but I fear that it could be much, much worse. Because through the process of eminent domain, private citizens still have a chance of winning, of beating the US government and powerful private industries in court. And they have won in several cases. But that presents a financial burden which big money cannot take. So for them, the best work around the court system may be other, more sinister methods of removing people from sought-after land. Perhaps something like a conveniently neglected and uncontrolled wildfire which burns up the homes and residents of heavily coveted land, leaving those stubborn occupants who are unwilling to sell in a state of either destitution or dead. No trial necessary. All I know is what my gut tells me, that when governments begin taking away citizens' private property by force, it will end very, very badly. So pay your mortgage. Pretend that you own your house and land and not the bank. And when the time comes for a pipeline to be built through your backyard, don't be surprised if your property taxes get raised to unsustainable heights. You're forced to sell via eminent domain, or worse. A derailed train conveniently spills deadly chemicals in your area, or an uncontrolled wildfire engulfs you and everything you love. We're all slowly being programmed to give up, accept helplessness, and resign ourselves to being controlled. You will own nothing, and you won't be happy. And that's just the way it was planned to be. I can't keep getting distracted. But who can blame the allure? Endless scrolling and consumption of nonsense to divert us from madness. Every day is the end of the world, a new war, alien invasion, new pandemic. I think of the boomers hiding under their school desks to protect them from the bomb, or having to hide in the school closets in case of an active shooter. All desperate attempts to keep us afraid and break our morale.
Now comes the climax.
Of course we stay distracted. It's the only escape from a chaotic reality of which we have no control. Where will we be left when we're finally rendered useless? What will we become when everything has been given to us, and in exchange, everything taken away? With no skills, no responsibilities, no ownership of anything, not even ourselves.
No way of proving our use to society or life itself. Just pigs, all going to the same slaughter. Might as well make it look good. Why do we wish death on our fellow man? I sometimes think that we pray for the end times because it equalizes all life, independent of wealth, success, and our status in the world's pecking order, providing us with a way out, excusing all our shortcomings, solving our problems all at once, a way to cope. That in the end, none of it mattered, and we were all just dust. And the storm blew us away all the same, without discrimination or prejudice. Everything comes to an end eventually, but it never truly ends until we take control of our lives and ensure that it does. Mankind has always faced the threat of coming peril, and only when level heads endure and prevail through suffering will we see the light of the new dawn. We will prevail, and you will be happy.